Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, thank you. I love the energy. Need the energy. Thank you all for attending this meeting this afternoon. My name is Michael Bryant. I am the county's Management and Budget Director. And on behalf of our county manager, Dina Diorio, I'd like to say welcome. So pleased to see all of you here this afternoon. And I'm curious to know, just by show of hands, how many of you are attending for the first time? Wow, that is amazing. I've been with the county for 17 years, and this is the largest turnout that I've seen, as well as so many new faces. I think the most new faces as well. So kudos to our communications team and certainly our community service grant team as well, who will introduce themselves shortly. Today, you will receive some very important information regarding the county's nonprofit funding program. Information such as an overview of the funding application, as well as if you are approved for funding, very important reporting requirement information as well. So your goal today is to leave with a clear understanding of the expectations for you. So take advantage of this opportunity. We have a team of experts, again, that I'll hand this off to shortly. But again, this is your opportunity to get a good understanding of the county's community service grant process. We value our partnerships with our nonprofit funders. They provide very critical services to this community. So with that, well, there's a couple of housekeeping items, I'm sorry. The first one is, at the end of this meeting, the presentation, there will be a Q&A session that will be led by Brandon and Carly. If you have questions, please come up to the microphones. I thought there was two here. Just this one here, because we're recording this information as well. It will be posted on our website, so individuals who were not able to attend will also have an opportunity to view the presentation materials today. So we ask that you ask your questions here at the microphone so that it can be picked up on the recording as well, okay? With that, I'll turn it over to Brandon and Carly, the Community Service Grants team lead, so they can formally introduce their team members and then begin the presentation as well, okay? Thanks for being here again.
All right, thanks everyone. So my name is Brandon Jahesh. You'll actually see my contact information here in a moment through the PowerPoint. As Mike said, I am on the CSG team. We also have Carly Bryant and Ben Chambers. If he'll stand up. And then I know you get a lot of emails and contacts from Miss Brittany Jones. This is kind of the CSG team here at the county. So hopefully we can guide you through this upcoming year's process, what that's going to look like, and answer any questions that you might have. All right, so with that said, as far as our agenda for today, hopefully we won't have you here too long. And we really appreciate you being patient with us and through the sign up and validating the parking and so forth. Definitely a bigger crowd than in the past. So we're going to talk about the purpose of the CSG program here at the county, look at the process and timeline, look at the eligibility and reporting requirements to actually be eligible and apply to the program, and then we'll go over our sunset policy. We've gotten a lot of questions about this. We want to try and make that really clear today for all of you what that's about and how that kind of operates and works. Then we're going to get into the actual application submission as far as the timeline, actually get into some of the questions that we ask on the application, so you got a preview of those. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with just a question and answer session, okay? So as far as the purpose of the program, really this is an opportunity for us as a county to partner with you all and provide services in the community where we may have a gap in service. So you can see kind of our little fun word cloud here, family stability, health, opportunity, children's services, things around poverty and so forth. We've been doing that now through the Community Service Grant Program for some time. This year we've actually partnered with 16 programs, 11 of which were new, and able to actually get out and provide some of these services in the community. So we're really excited to see all of you here and to continue this effort. So that's kind of the purpose, and I think we'll definitely continue that for a while. As far as our process summary, we're actually here today on the top right, there the information session. That's actually today here to get you all the information you need to apply and be a part of the program. And actually the application opens today. And you will have through December 5th, so about a month or so, to go in and apply to the program. And again, we'll walk you through that here shortly. And that'll be open, I believe, till midnight on December 5th. After midnight, we'll go in and download that information, and we will share the applications with our reviewers. They're all internal county staff that'll go in and look at the applications and score them and provide comments and feedback for the county manager to review and decide who she wants to partner with and fund this year. And that information will be provided in the recommended county budget, which we expect to be sometime in early May. We don't have an exact date yet. So you'll find that information out, and we'll share that with you as well. And then finally, for those organizations that we do decide to partner with, we'll have an orientation session after the board actually adopts the budget in July 1st. And, they'll adopt by July 1st, and the orientation session will be early July. I would think this year was like July 13th. And we'll go through some of the details of, how we actually pay out the grant and kind of just the structure of the process overall. So as far as eligibility and reporting requirements, there's a couple here, so let me just kind of walk through them, just starting with the top one there. So we want to make sure, obviously, that you are serving the residents of Mecklenburg County. This is our community. This is who we are working for, so that's for sure one of our first criteria. Second, we want to make sure you are 501c3 and registered with the IRS, just basically that you are exempt from paying federal taxes. Third, that your financial statements have been audited by an independent CPA. We'll kind of dive into that a little more here on the next page because we often get questions about when and how and so forth. So we'll cover that here in a little more detail. And we also want some documentation supporting a diversified workforce. That's your equal employment opportunity, or EEO documentation. And that you've got professional membership that supports the organization's sustainability efforts. So for example, the North Carolina Center for Nonprofits. And that really just lets us know that you're in the loop, that there's folks out there who maybe are supporting you as an organization through your membership and organization with them, and definitely something we want to see in the application. Also, that you clearly contribute to one of the 4 goal areas, and we'll walk through those here in a minute, but we actually have 5 in the county. 4 of them apply to this program. We've got our connected communities, healthy community, safe community, and economic opportunities. We'll, again, walk through those and define them for you here in a moment. We also want to make sure that you're registered with the Secretary of State and listed as current and active. And that lets us know basically that you don't have any revenue suspensions or overdue taxes. We shared the link with you. It's kind of maybe hard to see on this screen, but you can just go there and put in your organization's information, and it'll show as either being current and active and so forth. And we actually do that when we go through the applications. All right, for the audited financials. So financial statements must be prepared in accordance with GAAP, so the generally accepted accounting principles. And they must be audited by an independent CPA. And that CPA must issue a clean or unqualified opinion. So we want to make sure there's no misrepresentation of the numbers and that all the information there is correct and according to GAAP and so forth. And also, obviously, must include the balance sheet, income statement, and the statement of cash flows. And that third bullet there, the year and date must be no more than 12 months prior to the beginning of the contract term. So for the 21 program, for example, that's June 30th of 2019. I know some of you may have year-end dates in October or December, but definitely nowhere past or later than June 30th, 2019. And audits this year, and this is a change from prior years, they are due by April 1st, 2020. I do want to share some more information with you around the audited statements. So once we actually receive the audit, the county's finance department will evaluate the financial statements, and they'll ask questions like, is there sufficient cash to cover your operations? Are you operating on debt? And what is your funding dependence? So are you going to need only county dollars to make this program happen? Ultimately, finance will recommend that the county should or should not enter into an agreement with the organization. So I tell you that because we obviously require to be eligible, you have to submit audited financial statements, but definitely take a look at those numbers because at the end of the day, we need finance to come in and say that we should partner with you. Again, there in red, the last bullet, those audited financial statements are due by Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. So for our sunset policy, This is a policy that gives us an opportunity to where we get to work and partner with some organizations and programs for 3 years, and then we make room so that we can continue to fund others, because obviously there's a limited amount of money. But let me go through this first bullet with you. Programs, not organizations, that are awarded funding for 3 consecutive fiscal years, so for example, fiscal 18 to fiscal 20, will be sunset from the program. And if an application is submitted for this upcoming 21 year, you will be considered for a vendor relationship. That's not a guaranteed relationship, but considered for a vendor status. To kind of show you the diagram there, you can see if you're funded in 18, funded in 19, and funded in 20, and then you do apply to the program in 21, I know you won't be a part of the CSG program per se, but it lets us know that you're interested in continuing to work with the county, and again, you'll be given consideration for a vendor. If that decision is made, you'll move over to vendor status. If not, as the diagram kind of shows, you go back into the sunset period where you'll kind of be ineligible for the program for 3 fiscal years, and then you can reapply in fiscal 24. The third bullet there, the county has transitioned 18 community service grant recipients into vendor status. So I think that's an important point. Not all, again, CSGs that have been funded in the past have transitioned, but we have found an opportunity for 18 of them. As far as the actual application, this here is the link. If you want to write it down, it'll be posted later. We'll try to email it out to you. It is case sensitive. Went and had a really long link for the application, of course, to our platform. It put it into the Bitly website, and that's how it came out. Once you go in and you put that link in your web address or your bar, or if you just click on it actually, it'll take you to the first page, where at the top right you can see the darkened apply button. It looks just like this in the actual application. You'll just select apply. But before you do, let me point you here. There's some basic information about the opportunity for 21, just that it's with Mecklenburg County, kind of a description and so forth, when it starts and ends, so July 1st to June 30th of 21. And then again, it shows you again the eligibility information items, kind of those 7 items there. They're really important. But then you just go in and hit apply. And once you hit apply, it'll take you to this screen here. This is the login screen. If you've already registered with our platform, then your login information should allow you to go in. If not, you can hit the forgot your password, and it can get you your password back, and hopefully you can be successful at logging in. If not, you can register, and registration is pretty simple, just your basic information and so forth, set up a password. Once you hit log in, it'll take you back kind of to this opportunities details page, where you will hit save and continue there at the bottom. So there's nothing to actually do on this opportunities details page. You'll see in a moment how we progress through the 4 circles there at the top. So if you hit save and continue, it'll take you to, it'll show you the check mark that you're done kind of with that opportunities details page. And now it's asking you for your project information, or basically your information about your program. So your application name, in this case I put ABC Charity, the amount of award requested I put $50,000, and then the primary contact information, and there's my contact information. I thought it was cool. All right. You'd put that in. And then you need to first select mark as complete, and then you'll hit save and continue again. And at that point, actually at this point I'm going to transition to Carly to get into more of the meat and potatoes of the application, where you go through some of these forms and so forth.
So I get to talk about the fun part, the actual application information we want to know from you guys. So as Brandon mentioned, this is the second sheet. You'll see there are 4 different sections to this, and we'll walk through each of those and explain each of the fields within those. So the first piece is just a proposal cover sheet. Again, this is general information about the program, organization, EINs, things like that. As Brandon mentioned, you do want to hit mark as complete before you hit save and continue. If you don't mark as complete at the end of the application, it'll tell you you have an incomplete section. So as long as you're comfortable with it, mark as complete and then save and continue. The second one is our funding categories. So if you've applied before or a current CSG with us, you'll see these are a little different. So Brandon mentioned we have 4 community-facing goal areas around connected community, economic opportunities, healthy community, safe community. This aligns to our corporate strategic business plan for the county that the county managers adopted. So just so you know that these look a little different, again, there isn't education here explicitly called out, just to make that clear. But connected community really focuses on a wide variety of things. So whether it's physical, informational, social resources for residents, economic opportunities, so whether it's economic stability of sorts, jobs, things like that. Healthy community, obviously things focused around health and wellness, and then safe community, often programs that are helping individuals who are struggling with the criminal justice system or coming out of that. So just so you're aware, those are there. We can also provide a link to our corporate strategic business plan, just so you can get an idea of what that aligns and what that looks like. So you'll select one of those. Again, we have people say, but what if I apply under many of them? Choose the one that's most relevant to your organization and what you do. And so you're gonna mark as complete and then save and continue. This is around just some required documents. So what you'll do is there is a question around audited financial statements, whether you have them currently. If so, yes. If not, as Brandon mentioned, they're due by April 1st, 2020, so you can select no. The second one that says the audit will be available at a later date. I will say if you select the third one of no, we do not have and will not have an audit, you probably should stop there because it is a requirement. So we give you the opportunity to tell us no, though. And then obviously some other supporting documents around that, so IRS letters, salary disclosures, things like that. So you're gonna, when you hit choose file, it'll just select to upload. You upload straight from your computer and it'll save into there. And then you can mark as complete and save and continue. So this is really now the core piece, the program narrative part of the application. So I'll walk you through kind of the key questions. These are, I don't think they have word or character limits on them right now. So we want you to tell us enough so that we can get an idea of who you are, what you're doing, but you don't need to write a dissertation for us at the same time. So the first is target population and service geography. This is really the who are you serving. Is it a specific group of individuals that you're targeting? Is it a certain area, location? Again, Brandon mentioned should be Mecklenburg County residents that should be served through the program. So that's to give us just a description of that. The second is the problem statement. So why? What's the need? Just describe that. What service are you proposing to address and what issues? The third is service delivery strategy. So this is really the, okay, we've identified the need, we told you who we're serving, here's how we're gonna help fill that need. So here's a space for you to tell us how you're gonna address the problem statement, what key activities are you gonna be involved in, what resources, staffing you're gonna involve to address that need. And then the last one on this slide is the proposed service result. So you'll see this looks a little different from last year again. So what you'll have is there's an open space here where you're able to just provide some open context of what service results look like. And then below that, you'll see there's a download button. So we'll look at this a little bit later in terms of what the template is, and I'll walk you guys through the template. But there's a template that you'll click, you'll download it, fill it out, and then there's the choose file just to re-upload that template back in so it's all in one place. But that'll all be around service delivery and measures, and we'll talk a little bit about measures in a second. The next piece, this is still the same program narrative section, is the budget proposal. So similar to what I just talked about with the performance piece, there's going to be a budget piece. So this open area is just a space for you to provide a description for how the funds are going to get used to support the program. Then you'll see, again, I'll talk about in a second what the budget template looks like. You'll click on that to download it, fill it out, and then re-upload it back by clicking the choose file button. And then lastly, we've got two sections that really kind of talk about, the first is collaborations and partnerships. So Brandon talked a little bit about that importance earlier. So what organizations are you working with in order to achieve the results that you're looking for? What kind of partnerships do you have set up related to the service that you're providing? And then the last is the peer references. Again, all we need is contact information for the organization. So we're not asking for like a reference letter or anything like that. It's just if we have questions and need some additional information that there's references there for us to have. So you'll get through that section, a lot of it, and click the mark as complete and then save and continue. From there, you'll hit essentially to the final point where this is your last chance to change anything. And then what you'll do is you can either review it, which will kind of take you back through everything that you've already put in, or you can click submit and your application will be submitted and completed. And this is just, again, a reminder. So for all of you who are trying to take pictures the first time, I'll leave this up here for a few seconds. But again, this will be available online as well, this presentation, so you can get it there. So I talked about templates real quick as we were going through. There's two templates, the budget template and the performance template that you'll have to fill out as part of this. So the first, maybe. Oh. Okay, the first is the performance template. So this is really getting at us understanding the outputs and outcome measures that should you receive money from the grant process, that you're gonna monitor and submit to us. We do have requirements for quarterly reporting around these measures for each of our grant recipients. So what you'll do in this section is you'll see it's divided to two sections. The top is output measures. So those are really things that you can count. So like number of clients served, number of lunches served. So those are really the things that you're doing. And the second one is the outcome. So that's really the things that we tend to care most about in terms of the results of the program, the impacts on people's lives. So whether if it's a health-based program, the decrease in cholesterol or blood pressure, what it may be. So the top section, what you're gonna do is put in the output measure name, then a calculation methodology. This is really telling us how are you going to get this data? Where does this data come from? How do you calculate it? So if you tell me, percent of people who are housed within 6 months, okay, how did you calculate that? So just give us a description there around that piece. And then you'll see to the right of that, there's kind of past performance data. So if you have it, definitely fill it out. We understand there are some situations where you may not have all this information, or if it's a newer program, that you won't have data around it. But you'll fill out any previous targets, actuals for 18, 19, and then obviously we're not done with 20, so anything up to where you are now, year to date for FY20. And then finally, what's really important though, is a target for 21. This is part of what we use to understand strength of applications. So even if it's a new measure for you, proposing a target there. So if we want to be able to house 40% of the clients that we're serving within 60 days. So the target then being 40% of clients. So from that perspective, it's really important that you fill in, even if you don't have any of the past data, to fill in a target for us so we understand what you're trying to achieve within this time frame. And then similarly, you'll see it looks the same, but the outcome measures, like I said, these are the ones that really get at the impact, the longer term impact and results of the program. So you'll put those there as well, and similar calculation methodologies and whatnot. And myself, as well as my colleague Ben Chambers, who you introduced to, we are more than happy to talk through measures with you guys if there's any questions. We know this can be a new space for a lot of people, so please feel free to reach out. Then the second template we talked about was the budget template. Pretty straightforward. You'll see the top has to do with revenue, the bottom half has to do with expenses. You'll fill in kind of where all the white open cells are. So your 19 actuals, your 20 budget, and then the 2021 budget. What you'll see is a little bit different is at the bottom, obviously, for the 2021, since you're applying for the 2021 grant, is a county-funded expenses section, and that's really important for us to be able to understand how you're going to use the funds. So is the funds going to go towards salaries? Is the funds going towards equipment, towards maintenance, things like that? So that's where you'll give us kind of the breakdown of if we applied for $50,000 in funding, $30,000 is going towards salary, and $20,000 is going towards supplies and programming. So you'll fill that out, and that'll get uploaded back into that. And that's pretty much the budget template. The rest of it, like I said, the change, the percentage, that'll all fill in, so you don't have to calculate any of that in the grayed out area. And with that, I think that we've reached the end. That covers everything, at least in the application that's required. And so now we'll open it to questions. I do want to remind if everyone could raise their hand, and then we're going to redirect you to the microphone just so everyone can hear the question that's recorded. You have a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before we take questions,
Oh.
I just want to stress one thing on the budget template. So for this upcoming year, for fiscal '21, It will be a model wherein expenses are reimbursed up to the award amount. Okay, so if you get $50,000 as an award, you'll submit those actual expenditures and along with an invoice, and we'll get into the details of that if we partner with you at the July orientation session. But it will be a reimbursed model, which is a little bit different. Okay. All right. Questions?
Yeah.
Well, and it's helpful because, again, this will be published online, and that way your voice picks up on the video as well.
So I think you mentioned a couple of examples before, but for when you say you have to be supported by someone, so North Carolina Center for Nonprofits is one that you mentioned, is that right? And does that have to be letters from them or just their name and contact information?
Just the name and contact information.
Okay, and can you give me some more examples of who that might be? Because not everybody can afford or it doesn't make sense for some folks to be part of the North Carolina Center for Nonprofits for whatever reason.
So you'll see in the application itself, which we can go back to, that actual piece of the application. So it's collaborations and partnerships. So it could be any organization that you're partnering with to deliver services. So, I mean, obviously that will span different organizations depending on whether you're a health or economic development. So really just we want to understand, are you working with other organizations or are you working more in a silo in terms of the support that you're receiving? And then what you're talking about, the contact information is the peer references piece where we'll need
Okay.
the contact.
And then the peer references, peers meaning people doing the same thing that you're doing, or when you say peers, what do you mean?
I would just say folks in the nonprofit world.
Could be other organizations that are doing something similar to what you're doing, other organizations you've worked with before, have a relationship with. Essentially, we want to be able to get into contact with someone. If we go and ask them a question, they'll likely know the answer.
I guess the question is past board members, people who have worked within your organization before, or would you suggest that they be outside folks rather?
I would say if you've got someone who can really speak to the work that you've done that are recognized in the community, there's no restriction here, so add them. We'll evaluate each application independently.
It's a little, hi. Is it this one or this one, or both? My question is, I know you said we have to be part of or serving in Mecklenburg County. If we serve Mecklenburg County but other counties as well, is that still, are we still eligible?
Yes, so we've had organizations ask this before. So what we need, though, is the grant dollars that are being provided should be used to solely serve Mecklenburg County residents. So we understand there are some organizations that span larger than just the county, but that group of people who are being served should be Mecklenburg County residents.
Okay. And I just kind of was curious, on the sunset period, I know you said that first year you can apply to be a vendor, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 years. Can you apply to be a vendor again during that sunset time? So you only have the one time to apply?
I think that's pretty. I guess you could apply, but during that sunset period, you're ineligible for those 3 years as a CSG, and you could apply to be a vendor. But if a decision has already been made to not move forward,
That's a good point. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I had a question. You mentioned sufficient funds to cover operations. Oftentimes that's stated in so many months of cash on hand. Do you have a measure for what sufficient funds to cover operations means?
We don't have a stated measure, I don't believe, in our office. We just leave that up to finance. So.
Yes, I would like to talk about the 4 goals, areas that reflect strategic priorities. I know we just briefly went over that, but if you could give me a little bit more details on each one and what that entails so I can get more clarity about those 4 areas.
Of course. And we can also post some additional resources. Like I said, this is part of our corporate strategic business plan. And these are the same that they were for our 17 to 19 plan. So you'll be able to see, and we have our performance report on the website, so you can see the other types of things that the departments are doing across the county. But connected communities, so this says things to foster access to physical, social, and information resources. So often we have our libraries aligned to this in the work that they're doing. We have our Park and Recreation department aligned to this in terms of providing access to parks. Under economic opportunities, we have our Department of Social Services. Obviously, the Economic Development Department would align under this. But this is really anything that you're doing to enhance economic stability of residents. So whether it's connecting them with jobs, providing some kind of support services around that, I would say is the economic opportunities section. Healthy community, this one's a little more straightforward, but this is really health and wellness. So whether it's clinic-based stuff, mental health, things like that would apply under the the healthy community. And then safe community, we haven't had a ton of people apply under this before, but it definitely is there. This is really focusing on our criminal justice services department and sheriff's office department, and this is really focused towards serving individuals who I guess are at risk of being in the criminal justice system or have been involved. A lot of the reentry programs, so people who are serving individuals coming out of the jails, so whether it's providing jobs, housing, things like that for them. Does that help? Okay.
And let me just add, if there's an opportunity where we can reach back out to follow up with you based on some of the questions we've heard and try to get more clarification for you, we definitely will. Always feel free to email us. I will just mention two other questions I often get. One, is there a certain amount of funding that is kind of most, that's supported? I would say there's not. The funding we've provided to organization has been from $50,000 to as much as $300,000 or so. It's really about serving the community and whether there's a gap in service here in the county and many other factors. Again, this is something that takes part. It's part of our overall budget process. So just do know that. And are you coming up there?
You have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Is there a minimum and a maximum amount that can be requested?
There's
No minimum, no
Okay.
maximum.
Okay.
Well, I guess the minimum would be 0.
Before Brandon and Carly wrap up, I just want to elaborate on some of the responses that were provided to your questions. The gentleman inquired about the sufficient funds to support the operations. What we're basically looking for is making sure that there is not a high dependency on the county funding. So we want to make sure that if for any reason there's a decision to decrease the grant award to your agency and or once you're sunset, that you're still, still in existence, that you're not going to go under and have to close your door. So that's one of the things that we want to factor, is making sure that the recipients are not relying solely on county funds to operate. The question regarding sunset, just a little more context regarding that. This was something that was put in place, say about 4 or 5 years ago by our board. The reason why it was put in place to ensure that we provide opportunities for more nonprofits to receive funding. Hence why there's a lot of first timers here, right? If we're funding the same organizations year after year after year, and the entire funding level for our community service grants remain the same, then that provides no opportunities for new partners to be funded. So once an agency is sunset, I believe, don't quote me, but I'm almost certain that they have to wait 3 years before they can apply again. Okay, we'll make sure we'll follow back up, but I believe that was a decision that was made when we implemented the sunset process. So it's 1 to 3 years. I'm almost certain that it's 3 years. Peer references, as Carly noted, in addition to what she said, basically what we're looking at, when it's time to review those applications, We have in-house experts that look at it from multiple departments, county departments, but also if there is someone that we want to provide feedback or ask questions to that's outside of the organization, the county government organization, but is familiar with your nonprofit, we can reach that individual organization that's listed by you in that peer section. And then partnerships and collaborations, a couple of things there. Again, around 4 or 5 years ago, when we're reviewing applications, those organizations that submitted an application for consideration as a partnership and or collaborating, that was something that was considered as part of the review and approval decision process. That's not no longer the case. However, there's still an interest to know if, when you apply, there's a possibility of you partnering with other organizations. And then I want to reiterate what Carly and Brandon said regarding the criteria. If you're here today, there's no exceptions to the audit, the deadline for the audit, and there's no exceptions as relates to you submitting your budget information for reimbursements, as well as the performance information once it's reviewed by the Strat team. Sometimes we tend to get questions from those individuals that were present at this kickoff, as well as those at the contract orientation, asking for some flexibility, some wiggle room. This is one of those areas that our county manager and the board do not fluctuate on because, of course, this is taxpayers' money. So we want to make sure that the organizations that receive funding are tight, have credibility, have good finances in place, and are following through on all the rules and criteria that have been explained by the Community Service Grant Team. So I want to make it clear that there are no exceptions when it comes to these items that was listed here, okay? And I believe that is it. Is there anything else before we close?
Just two quick housekeeping things. If you weren't able to sign in, make sure you see Brittany and get signed in. We also have parking validation. So if you parked in the parking garage, please make sure to come see us and we can validate your parking for you. And I think that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.